Welcome back to another episode of Gritty Iron Gang. If you celebrated Turkey Day, we hope you enjoyed your day. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. Hope you enjoyed these football games. If you did, I'm sure you caught this first one. Green Bay on the road at Detroit. Our problems with the Lions remain defense, ball security, to a lesser extent the coaching. First play of the game, Jordan Love hits Watson on a 53-yard bomb down the field. Love finishes the day with a career-high 3 touchdowns. Offense is really coming around under LaFleur. I know that's your guy. On the other side of the ball, we had another career high. 3 fumbles for Jared Goff, including 2 early on back-to-back possessions. That, along with that deep pass to Watson, really set the tone for the game. Packers took the lead, never relinquished that lead, and now winners of 3 of their last 4. How you feel about Green Bay?
I kind of expected Green Bay to show up on Thanksgiving because they've been battling a tough season that they're not used to. Jordan Love's getting a lot of scrutiny for his play, but he's kind of come on as of late. The last 4 games, maybe playing a little better. But to me, I don't know. I still don't think Green Bay is. I picked him a little too early in Gravediggers. I will say that, but that was just an emotional pick. Being a Green Bay hater myself. So, if they get into the playoffs, they'll be one and done. I'm not worried about it. They're truly not a playoff team. They're really not. It's just it's bad. They sit 1 game back, I think, from the 7th seed now, which is held by Seattle, and it's tough watching Seattle really take a dip in their play as of late. But the story of this game for me was just, I told you, I've been saying it from jump, bro. Like, eventually Dan Campbell's 4th down gambles will come back and bite him in the ass. And that's exactly what happened here. He is just every 4th, if it's like 4th and 5, they're going for it. He can't help himself. And in the NFL, you cannot be that risky. You can't. You gotta have faith in your defense. You gotta have faith in your guys that they can get a stop, and not put yourself in bad field position defensively. So this, Dan Campbell on that late 4th down in their own territory, just a bad coaching error. And I think he's gonna learn from it, obviously, because he's a good coach, but he's just. I think a lot of their fans and everyone were super pissed at that, call, because even their fans, just from, seeing a lot of social media posts and everything, they were getting nervous with how much he's gone for it on 4th down. It's just kind of one of those things where teams are now expecting it. And when that's the case, and you're putting a lot of 4th down film out there for defenses to really learn how you go about going for it. And it's going to catch up with them. I've said before, I don't think, as much of a feel-good story as this season has been for the Lions, they're not going to win anything significant with Jared Goff at the helm. It's just not going to happen. He's one of those, that year he went to the Super Bowl and they lost to the Patriots. That Rams team was arguably like the most loaded Rams team they had, besides that the Super Bowl against the Bengals. But I just think, Goff, he makes too many mistakes, whether it's, poor decision making with his arm, or, holding the ball too long, and he's getting strip sacked constantly. And, you just can't trust the guy. And it's tough because they're building a good team over there. But man, the Lions will be Lions still. And that's my whole point of all of this, is like, they're not there yet. They still have, I think they're 2 or 3 years from being like an actual legitimate certified contender. This year, to me, they're just overachieving.
I agree. They're just a good story this year. They're probably 2 or 3 years away. The 3 things we mentioned are the 3 things holding them back from being elite and getting to that next level: the defense, the coaching, and the ball security. So you've mentioned it 100 times. You don't trust Jared Goff at the helm. Dan Campbell on 4th down. We've talked about it for 2 years now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This was just one of those cases when it doesn't, and it just happened to be on national TV.
You
So
know, and on the going for it on fourth down stuff, I love an aggressive head coach, and that's one of the things I love about Dan Campbell. But you can't go for it on every fourth and short. You just can't. Like, this
no,
is the NFL, bro. This is big boy ball. Like, you can. This is where you got to take field position into account, and you're gonna run yourself out of Detroit eventually if you just keep doing this stuff. And I get it from his point of view. It's like Detroit's been so bad for so long, and like he to me, he's just trying to instill that, like, that bad boy mentality. Like, we're taking the fight to you. Like, you got to prove you can stop us. And I love that mindset, but you just can't do it every single 4th and 5 or 4th and short. Like, it's not an every 4th down situation.
I agree. On Green Bay side, when Jordan Love had a career day, I thought the defense, this is how we expected them to start the season. So hopefully they're rounded into shape. Being able to do this against an offense like Detroit is very encouraging. I'm really not going to hang my head on it going forward, but I did like what I see from this Green Bay team as a total right now.
Yeah. And I will say, a lot of Detroit fans were super pissed about this game because coming into this game, Green Bay had 17 guys on the injury report. You're missing Aaron Jones. You're missing
Mhm.
Jair. You're missing big time guys for Green Bay, and they're still able to beat you, which that's concerning.
Yep, you're missing your best linebackers, some of your best defenders, like you mentioned. That's a big loss for Detroit, especially when you have a chance to run away in this division.
And that too, and talking about, we got a Monday night game, division game, Vikings Bears tonight. If the Vikings win, they're 7-5, and they're still 2 games back in the division. Now, I'm not saying we're going to come back and take the division from Detroit, but I think this kind of is one of those games that has to wake Detroit up a little bit, because their end stretch of games before the playoffs is no slouch.
Not the easiest of roads. Pittsburgh has a pretty easy schedule. You guys have a fairly easy schedule. Yeah, they're not one of those teams, so they got to kick it into gear soon. Our second game of the day was Washington at Dallas. Dallas is now 8-3 on the season. They have not beaten a team with a winning record. In their 3 losses, they averaged 16 points per defeat. One of those, if you remember, came to Arizona. So we've seen teams like this: the Vikings last year, the Giants last year, the 11-0 Steelers a couple years prior to that. A team that does what they're supposed to do against these garbage teams. They get a couple lucky wins here and there, but are they really going to matter? Are they really going to show up when it matters? So Dallas, we're always looking for that. Mike McCarthy, Dak, you have to prove it.
Yeah, bro. I don't even know what to say about this shit. I mean, you got people like Skip who think this is the best Dallas team since '95. It might be even better, he says, which is just blasphemy to me.
It's hilarious.
It's
I love it.
After this game, there was just so many Dallas fans saying, "We're going to the Super Bowl. This is finally our year." And it's like, you just crushed Washington, bro. Like, you haven't beat a team above 500. Like, what are we doing here? It's just this year is the most comical for me when it comes to Dallas, because it's like, there's no way in hell you're going to Philly in January and winning that game to go to the Super Bowl. There's just no way. There's no absolute way. And on top of it, I don't think you're going to San Francisco like you had to go last year, and you're not winning there either. So what are we talking about here? I mean, cool, you're putting up tons of points against these terrible teams, but there's nothing to see here, dude. There's just, this is why Dallas fans are the absolute worst.
The delusion is comical. I've heard Dallas fans like, well, didn't we almost beat Philly and this and that? Well, it's like,
and that was my other thing. So you got Skip and everyone saying we were the better team that night. We got cheated. We beat them. And it's like, well, the score says otherwise. Your record shows that you didn't beat them. And if you really were the better team that day, why didn't you beat them? So this is
valid questions.
the fairyland that they live in is just comedy to me, and I just keep it coming because it's free entertainment for me to watch these fans just talk up their team like they're the best thing since sliced bread, bro. It's Dallas fans are probably the worst fans in the NFL.
Our third game on Turkey Day, we had San Francisco on the road at Seattle. I think the 49ers just needed a little wake-up call. After that three-game skid, they're back to maybe looking like the best team in the NFC, potentially the best team in the league. Christian McCaffrey is a real contender for MVP with all the downplay at quarterback. I think we're getting to the point in the season where we're seeing a lot of guys down for the season. Mark Andrews for San Francisco, Hufanga, the safety back there. We see it for the 49ers every year. If there's a team that I feel confident in with plug-and-play guys, it's San Francisco, it's Shanahan and those guys. So a very convincing win against Seattle, a team who's battling to get into the playoffs, who is having a down year, but should be able to muster more than 13 points against San Fran. What you think about this game?
Yeah, I think they just went out and took care of business. I think, like I've said before about San Francisco, like, you would have thought the world was ending during that 3-game skid they went through. And
For sure.
and ever since then, I haven't heard one thing or negative thing about Brock Purdy. It was panic mode for a bunch of people during that 3-game skid. Good teams go through skids like that. It's a long NFL season, but the really good teams and the for real teams bounce back, and they know how to bounce back. I think, like you said, they just needed a wake up call. They're taking care of business now, and I really think it'll be. I really think I truly see a San Fran Philly NFC Championship in the future. And to me, that would be a hell of a rematch this year if it happens. Because while Philly really looks like a, maybe the best team in the NFL, especially record wise,
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're not as dominant as they were last year.
No, this is almost the exact same story from last year where Philly's going to go 15-2. San Francisco fumbles a little bit in the middle of the season. So we think San Francisco looks more dominant, but Philly has the better record. But if it comes down to it, we're going red over green. And if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, you said you'd probably take the 49ers over the Eagles last year. Hopefully we do get to see that scenario because although 3-7 is open in the NFC, I mean 1 and 2 is solidified pretty much, and that's pretty much a clash of titans right there that we expect to see. So I'm looking forward to it. And we do
Yeah,
get to see it in the regular season pretty soon here.
yeah, for me, I just think, especially it's going to be really fun, especially if we can get both those teams, fully or close to fully healthy by the end of the season when the time comes to play each other. So if we can get that and no injuries happen in game to where, they have to throw in a fucking emergency quarterback, like we'll get a good one to watch. So I'm excited for that.
Before we move on, to your Purdy point, during that 3-game skid, they were talking about is Sam Darnold going to be the guy after the 3-game skid, after these 2 or 3 wins now. He had a game, they were comparing him to Steve Young, Joe Montana, saying he had a perfect passer rating, whatever his numbers were. The narrative changes so quickly, man. We just got to relax sometimes. Teams are not going to be perfect. We've never seen it before, and we haven't seen it for a reason in a 17, 16-game season. So let's just chill. Friday, we had a game on Friday. Did you watch it? It was Miami at New York.
I
Boy, it was in
watched
for Zach Wilson.
I watched like half the first quarter. I mean, I knew going into it what the fuck type of game we were gonna get.
That's
So I
honestly
was
all you had to watch.
like, it was just like, who am I to sit through a whole game with Tim Boyle being a quarterback? Like,
Yeah.
it was nothing to watch. There's nothing to recap about this game. We knew Miami was going to go out and dominate. That's what they did. The Jets are just completely awful, and you just gotta chalk it up to we'll try again next year when Aaron Rodgers is back.
Yep, Miami won by 21. I'm probably off the Jets until next year when they do get Aaron Rodgers back. I guess the silver lining is your draft pick gets higher and higher by the week. So whether that is a weapon for the opposite side of Garrett Wilson or if it's somebody on defense, going into next year with a healthy Rodgers, yes, he will be in his 40s, but you should be sitting okay. And hopefully you get a backup quarterback just in case something does happen.
Yeah, and to me, I think, I think the Jets. You got to realize with the Jets this year, they brought in so many players, and then Nathaniel Hackett into their team, players along with Nathaniel Hackett that they brought in solely because of Aaron Rodgers, that he handpicked who he wanted to bring with him. Without Aaron Rodgers, these players and Mr. Nathaniel are garbage.
Yeah,
Nathaniel Hackett is probably the worst offensive coordinator in the whole league.
we're really going to see next year because the weapons aren't terrible. The quarterback play is just
But when you're
abysmal.
we're in the season now where Alan Lazard is becoming a healthy scratch, which is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Randall Cobb has like 2 or 3 catches on the year for 20
Mm-hmm.
yards. Dalvin Cook has barely, not even 3 yards per carry, 0 touchdowns.
He's bad. Looks bad.
I mean, Billy Turner, offensive line is atrocious. It's just, I mean, bro, they all came there because those are his guys. And not, I mean, not necessarily Dalvin because they never played together, but he's the guy that they respected each other, where they wanted to play with one another, yada yada yada. But look, I mean, it is what it is. You need it's just like the Tom Brady effect. Like, as long as Brady's there, he can have whoever the fuck he wants out there, because he's going to make them be someone that they really aren't. So, I mean, like I said, you gotta wait till next year to have him fully healthy. And my God, I know Rodgers wants to play and do the unthinkable, but for the love of God, bro, you're like 40 years old. Just wait till next season and be fully healthy.
Yeah, especially what they're 4-7 now. I mean, you're jogging next week. Let's just say you had a setback. Jets don't have any chance of getting into the playoffs with the current quarterback play. Just relax. Yeah, I agree with you completely. There's no reason to rush it, bro. No reason at all. But to your Hackett point, you're saying they need a new OC potentially, because we
No,
did have an
they
OC.
won't. They
Yeah.
won't as long as Rodgers is there quarterbacking, because Rodgers is calling the fucking plays.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Then you and I could do that in that case. Pittsburgh did fire their OC. They were on the road at Cincinnati. Matt Canada is out. The Steelers go over 400 yards on offense for the first time in 58 games. Pickett had a season high 278 pass yards on 24 of 43. Harris had 99 yards on 15 attempts for 6.6 a pop. Fryermuth, the tight end, 9 for 120. So I think this team has the formula. They have the defense, who actually ended up getting a stop. They have a quarterback to tight end connection that works on third downs and in big situations. They have Najee and Warren, who are actually becoming a formidable duo in the backfield. And although Pickens and Deontay didn't combine for a lot, 7 for 108, they do make clutch catches. They do make contested catches. And I think with the best coach in the league at 7-4, Pittsburgh is a scary team. They had their hands on passes all day. They ended up getting the one turnover they needed on Jake Browning, who honestly didn't have a bad game. I thought you can't really expect a lot from him when you only rush the ball 8 times. I was wondering where Joe Mixon was, or any kind of rushing attack in this game for the Cincinnati Bengals. But 16-10 for Pittsburgh. Like I said, they're 7-4. How you feel about Pittsburgh, and do you think Cincinnati season is over?
I mean, I said it last week. I think whenever Burrow, officially went out for the year, or whatever, however long. I just think, being now 5-6 after this game, a division game, I think they put up a great fight, but we all kind of knew what it was. I didn't expect them to win. I just think, yeah, you gotta kind of move on, look forward to next year, because this team is still solid. Who knows what the offseason holds with losing players or gaining players or whatever, but as long as you have Burrow, they're going to be a competitive team, and they'll be in the thick of things for playoff race. But it's just a down year. I just chalk it up as a down year for this team. There's nothing really to be worried about, near future wise, I don't think. But so yeah, I think their season this year is done. But I wouldn't count them out next year at all, especially with a healthy Burrow. Get that whatever's lingering in your calf healthy, get that wrist taken care of, just come back 100%, and the Bengals will look totally different next year. Now let's try next year though, when you're healthy, to not start out the gate slow like we've done the past couple of years now. So, get a faster start on the season and not put yourself in such a hole that you have to climb out of. But Pittsburgh, on the other hand, I think obviously they needed to get rid of that OC. I think, they haven't put up a 400-yard game with that guy, Matt Canada. First game he's gone, they go for 400 yards as an offense. I mean, sometimes coaches hold players back and in their game planning and in their scheming. So Tomlin made the right call here. I think, this is a team that, you kind of gotta watch out for them because they're kind of sneaky good, and they'll always be in it at the end of the games because to me it's all about Tomlin and getting his guys ready. But I'm really not afraid of them in the sense of I'm not scared of Kenny Pickett. So as long as you got a solid defense, you should not have anything to worry about with Kenny Pickett.
I'm not afraid of him either, but if he goes 24 or 33, I mean, that's more than enough. I don't care what the yardage looks like. You're efficient enough to keep the offense on the field. So 278 is just a plus in that aspect. But
Right.
to your Joe Burrow point, being healthy next year, do you think he's going to be healthy next year? He's dealt with the knee coming into his rookie
Yeah, I
season,
know.
the calf coming into this season, hurt it on first play of camp. The wrist, obviously, now will sideline him for the rest of the season. He's already an older quarterback coming into the league. I mean, how do we feel about Joe Burrow going forward, honestly?
I don't, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait till we start seeing him next year and see how he does through mini camp and OTAs and training camp. And, obviously he got hurt originally in training camp with the calf. So, the durability is a question for him at this point. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with Mixon if he's, his future in Cincinnati is looking like. They're not going to be able to keep all three of those receivers for, every
Right.
year. So I mean, you're gonna keep Chase because that's Burrow's guy. T. Higgins to me is probably out of there. He's gonna try to go, be a number one somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
which he's owed that because of how
No
well he's
question.
played. So I think I don't know what the future holds for the Bengals. I think as long as you have a healthy Burrow and you got a guy like Jamar Chase, look, it all depends on how they go about the front office and coaching staff goes about building this team. I think Zach Taylor is probably not the greatest coach. He's just been blessed with having the type of team he's had, since they got to the Super Bowl and whatever. But he has some questionable coaching moments, whether it's time management or clock management, you know, critical situations, decision making. I don't know if he's the guy to get the job done for them. So their future is a little murky for me. I like to, once we get to the offseason this year and start seeing free agency unravel and the draft process, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I just think the best thing you can do though is it's kind of like the Vikings. Obviously, we don't know what our future holds either, and the Kirk Cousins situations. But up until this point, it's always like if you have a healthy Kirk and you have a healthy JJ, you're going to be able to be in competitive mode. So
And that's probably your mindset. So I don't see Cincinnati really taking too much of a step back if Joe Burrow is healthy next year, even though they might lose some key players. Jacksonville at Houston. So we come out of this one, splitting the series. Even though Jacksonville controls their destiny, they could potentially be the number one seed in the AFC. I do feel like the better team lost this game. For me, it came down to three separate scenarios. One, Houston had a stop inside the red zone, but a penalty gave Jacksonville the ball first and goal. I think it was third and goal where Houston stopped them again, but there was another penalty giving Jacksonville first and goal. And it wasn't until third down again where Trevor Lawrence finally found Calvin Ridley for a touchdown. So you got 8-9 chances. I would hope you score. I thought that was really one of the turning points in this game, as well as midway through the fourth quarter. CJ Stroud and that offense was faced with a 3rd and 1 around midfield. They decided to go 2 deep passes, incomplete passes, turning the ball over on downs when they really had a chance to take the lead in this game, change the momentum. And then obviously the kick at the end, right off the crossbar, because I think Houston, being the better team, in my opinion, would have won this game in overtime. So it comes down to coaching sometimes. It comes down to some of those decisions you were talking about with Dan Campbell in the game prior to this one. I really think you should run the ball, even though Singletary and Pierce weren't having that much success in that 3rd-and-1 scenario near midfield in the fourth quarter. But you have been trusting your rookie quarterback, who's looked like a top 10 quarterback this year. I think he now has 4 games with 300 yards in a row. So I trust him too. But just in that scenario, questionable decision. And when you lose the game, those decisions are magnified. But what do you think about this Jacksonville-Houston game?
Yeah, to me, I kind of agree. I just, for me, I don't, Jacksonville being 8-3, it's
Fluky. It
just a
seems
very
fluky.
it's a very unbelievable 8-3. Um, the
Isn't more
fact that
believable than Dallas?
I honestly might say the Jaguars are a better 8-3 team than the Dallas Cowboys.
Fair.
But it's not by a wide margin or anything like that. But
Right.
to me, this whole thing though, it just goes to show like Houston is on the cusp of being a very good playoff team in the future, and it's going to come very quick. That division is going to be more competitive within the next 2 years than we're used to, and I just think D'Amico Ryan, CJ Stroud. I mean, look, Tank Dell's a baller. You got Nico Collins who can, put up yards and touchdowns. They're doing it with. I mean, they're doing it with. They got some big name guys on that team. For the most part, they're doing it with mid tier to bottom tier guys, and to me, that's coaching and the leader at the quarterback position that's putting this thing all together for them. And this team, to me, in the next 2-3 years, especially, it's going to be a scary team in that AFC.
I just like that the young guys, like you mentioned, Tank Dell. You didn't mention Stingley, but he did have an interception.
Oh, Stingley
CJ
and Will
Stroud.
Anderson. I mean, like
Yeah,
that's what
Will.
I'm saying is
Yeah.
give D'Amico and these guys another offseason to put more together. And they're next year, this team is probably
And
gonna
get a
be
star or two.
they're gonna be I mean, I won't go as far as saying, I'm not gonna even predict the record, honestly, but they can be one of those top
They can
four.
be a double digit win team.
Yeah, easily.
And maybe they don't even need a star. Maybe they just need to shore up some weaknesses they have, because Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, I think, is the 3rd receiver right now, Dalton
Yeah.
Schultz. And then 2 solid backs who really haven't been playing great, but they are decent. I mean, CJ Stroud's making everybody look. He
I
has
think
that
I
Tom
think
Brady
the
effect right now.
move to me right now, the move though this offseason, get some more high quality players on that defensive side, and D'Amico's gonna have that unit just being stout as fuck.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see. It's very rare that you see a phenomenal defense with a quarterback that can produce, and when you do, you have teams like Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson and championship contenders. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they put those pieces together.
And on another note for Houston, they need to make those all reds their primary.
Those are fire. I said it like 6 times during the game, just sitting next to them. I'm like, those are fire, babe. Those are fire. I agree. We'll kind of stay in this division here. We had Tampa Bay on the road at Indianapolis. So another team that just keeps on winning. Minshew gets another one under his belt. JT puts 2 in the end zone. Baker continues to underperform when there are expectations at hand. But I think Mike Evans is doing all that he can. I think he had like 5 catches for 50 yards or something like that. But he did have 2 touchdowns, 2 big touchdowns to keep Tampa Bay in this game. Not a lot that he can do outside of that. He might go down as one of the most underrated players ever, honestly. But Tampa Bay just doesn't have it right now. Indianapolis, they keep trucking along. I think they hold the 6th or 7th spot right now in the AFC. So
Yeah.
credit to them in this AFC South division, which we thought would not be that competitive this year.
Yeah, I know. And for as hard as I've been on Minshew, he's kind of got to give him credit. He's kind of turned it around a little bit. He's just one of those kind of warrior type players out there who just battles and battles and battles. And Tampa Bay, good God, Vikings had no business losing to this fucking Buccaneers team. They're lucky they caught us on week 1, which is that feeler type week where everyone doesn't know what the fuck they're doing pretty much. But like, yeah, this is why we don't trust Baker Mayfield, dude. Like, he has good moments and then he has very atrocious moments, and it's just like he's kind of like a Minshew. Like, that's the type of player he is to me now. He's going to be like a quality backup going forward. If he wants a long career in the NFL, he's going to have to realize, like, I am a number 2 guy on a roster. Like, and that's what it is. And that's okay, because I'd be okay with Baker being my backup. He's good enough in spurts to get a couple wins if I need to. I don't want to go the whole season with him or a longer period of time with him, but if I need a game or 2 out of him, I'm totally okay with him being my backup.
The perfect scenario is my quarterback sprains his high ankle sprain during the game. So Baker, he goes in not knowing I'm going to be the starter. He'll have a decent game. 2 weeks, play weak teams, then a bye, and my quarterback is back. That's the perfect scenario for Baker. He's not really a great option right now. But we will stay in that NFC South division where we had New Orleans at Atlanta. And 3 weeks ago, I thought it would be those Buccaneers. I did mention Baker at the helm and his performance under those expectations worrying me. That seems to be coming to fruition. But most recently, I did pick Atlanta, but it's looking like it's going to be Atlanta. But I don't know. Because
This
I did pick the
division is
Saints in
so
this
bad.
game. I said it didn't matter if it was going to be Derek Carr or Winston. I'm not picking Ritter. And Derek Carr throws 300 yards. He does have a pick, but he completely outplays Desmond Ritter, who doesn't have 170 in the air and throws 2 interceptions. Saints averaged over 5 yards a carry, but they couldn't stop Atlanta on the ground, who averaged over 5.5. And it's just like, this is going to come down to 17, just like it did last year. Nobody in the world has a grasp on this division right now.
No, and the Bucks aren't even out of it.
No, they're not.
So this division is so bad. It's complete ass cheeks, bro. This division might be the worst in football. I
don't think the Panthers are mathematically out of it. I don't think.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But, I mean, they are out of it. There's no way they're coming back. I mean, they just fired their coach. They fired Deuce Staley. They fired another offensive coach. Like, they're blowing it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why? If this is, it's either their owner or their GM is just, one of those two got to go as well, because why would you hire, if this was, what in your right mind made you go hire Frank Reich in the first place when you had a guy like Steve Wilkes who was getting this team to buy in and play last year?
Right.
It makes no, like, that is
part of it had to be for Bryce Young, which why do you give up on that if it is after 11 weeks or 12 weeks? So very interesting.
I mean, look, that fan base, you got to feel for him, because I can't imagine the feelings you have, the animosity you have going through your body for, you know, the goddamn owner and the GM who are making these boneheaded decisions. It's like, and then why are you firing Deuce Staley, who's always been a solid running backs coach? Like, what did he do? I mean, you brought him, you know what I mean? Like, he was a Dan Campbell guy on the Lions for a little bit. It makes it just, what are we doing here? Like, and then I read that it was all these decisions that they made today has to do with looking out for the best interest of Bryce Young. What the fuck are you talking about? Like,
it's never good to have your young quarterback with 3-4 coordinators within his first 2-3 years. You saw Baker Mayfield go through that with Cleveland.
It's looking. I mean, it brings me back to, you know, Adam Thielen signing with them in the offseason saying, we got a real chance to get a Super Bowl here.
That's that Minnesota delusion
Let's
I love.
let's be real, Adam. You just said that to say it because you knew all this was for money. If you weren't so greedy, your ass would still be a receiver with the Vikings, ending your career and living and playing for your legacy in Minnesota. But instead, you went out and made the choice. I got to keep feeding my family, which is fair. I get it. You know, you only got so much time left. But I think the best choice would have been taking a little bit of a pay cut finishing your career in Minnesota, being a 2 or 3 guy. And that's my opinion. But look, now you're in a situation where you're getting your money, but you're in a
Didn't you want him gone
terrible,
last year?
huh?
Didn't you want him gone last year?
He was, but last year we're saying we don't want Thielen anymore because he's getting paid too much and he's lost a step. So no, I don't want to pay you to be a number 1 or 2 guy anymore. Like
To be declining?
you need to be on a not a veteran minimum, but somewhere around that ballpark of taking that kind of pay cut to help the team out, but still contributing. Like you're not a go-to guy anymore. We got JJ for that. We got Jordan Addison, obviously, but maybe we don't have it, JA, if you stay around. So it all works out how it's supposed to work out. But I'm just saying, I think the money obviously got to him a little bit, but now you look
Fair.
at when you, as a veteran in the NFL and you're trying to play for probably one last big contract, sometimes you end up in situations like this where it's like, fuck, can my career just be over already?
He had a good run, man. As a D2 guy coming into the league, made a couple Pro Bowls. He was the coldest white boy out there at receiver for a minute there. So I'll take Thielen over Jordy Nelson. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Thielen was
I feel,
cold.
yeah, no, for sure. But it makes you think about it and just laugh a little bit because like when these professional athletes make these type of decisions, it's always going to be about the money. You want as much money as you can before you retire, because whether you're investing or saving, whatever the case may be, if you're not blowing through it, God forbid, you need as much money as possible by the time you retire because you want to be set up for the future and in the long haul. So I get it. I do get it. But sometimes you got to think about, especially if you're smart with your money, you don't need a big payday contract. You can still make millions and be smart with your money. You know what I mean? God damn, if I had $10 million right now, I can make that last for the rest of my fucking life, bro. The way I live, like
you would think so, but yeah, you'd maybe not make 10 million, but if you had it, you'd probably spend that shit.
Well, that's the whole point, though. If you get 10 million, say you get 10 million, though, it's like, okay, I'm obviously going to hire a financial advisor. So
That's money out the window. Why you need to do that if you don't have bad spending habits? You feel
because
me?
I'm going to trust them to have help me invest so I can make money over time. I'm not putting all the money in an investment fund and being like, okay, I'm going to let it work for me. No, obviously I'm going to have some fun money. I'm going to have some fun money, but I'm going to have someone who's has the knowledge where I've never been taught about money per se. Help me out here. I'll pay you to help me out a little bit so I can make more money off this 10 million.
Hey, we got Gritty Iron Gang Finance coming soon. Probably in the off season. Y'all just stick around for that. To transition off Adam Thielen, we do have 4 stinkers we can talk about quickly here. Carolina did lose to Tennessee 10-17. King Henry was the difference here. 2 rushing touchdowns after what seemed to be the end of his reign. And like you mentioned, Carolina's coach was fired. How'd you feel about this game?
What is there? I mean,
let's move on then.
Yeah.
New England at the Giants. New England lost 7-10. Mac Jones was benched at halftime. Tommy DeVito was easily the best quarterback on the field. Saquon was non-effective, yet the Patriots hold opponents to 10 points for back-to-back games, and they lose. First time in NFL history that has happened. So how'd you feel about this game?
I mean, this was another stinker. I think this is the first time since Robert Kraft bought the team in '94. This is his first back-to-back losing season. That's crazy to think about.
Really? That's crazy.
So I mean, like I said, they've had a good run, but like it's kind of like what Rex Ryan. I'm not a big Rex Ryan guy, but
I knew you were gonna bring up Rex, Satan ass. Go ahead.
But what he said though is, we all said though after Tom Brady left, most people were saying it, myself included. I didn't think the Patriots were gonna be able to win like they have. Like they were gonna be just a mediocre to bad team. The Patriot this day and age with these type of generations coming into the league, the Patriot way does not work. Young generations do not want the Patriot way. They want to be handheld, coddled. They want to tell every day that you're doing a great job.
They want to make TikToks in the locker room instead of hitting their 4th rep. You know what I mean?
That's why it's like, this is why sometimes, and this has happened already. Bill Belichick has overstayed his welcome in the NFL. He's not his personality does not fit with the younger generations.
Fair. Let's move on. I hate the trash bill in the game. LA Rams on the road at Arizona. We can move on to a guy who I love to trash, Kyler Murray, who actually didn't play terrible, but what do you kind of expect? Cooper and Puka didn't really have a good game, so for this Rams offense to put up 37, I thought was pretty impressive. What the defense was able to do against a guy like Kyler was pretty encouraging. How'd you feel about this one?
I didn't really tune into it. I expected the Rams to handle business, which they did. But I'm becoming a big fan of this Kyron Williams running back for LA. I think this dude is really showing out. He obviously got hurt for a little while, came back. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 games or maybe 4 even he was out for, but I mean, he's just he runs his ass off back there, and he's a fun back to watch. He's not a big name, but I think he's gonna be well on his way to being a well-known name in this league. So as long as he stays healthy, hopefully. So for me, look, Arizona's got a lot of retooling and rebuilding to do. They just have a lot of work to do on that roster. I
Yeah.
think as much as we joke about that head coach, coming into the season, he's done a pretty damn good job getting those guys to play for him. So, there's no hate or disrespect there to him. I think, you get him, you get some more weapons on both sides of the ball and see where this thing goes. I mean, obviously, I expect him to roll with Kyler, for however long he stays in Arizona. I mean, I don't see them getting rid of him or trading him. So you kind of got to rebuild around him. You're obviously keeping Hollywood Brown as an integral part of that team. So, I mean, look, we need upgrade at running back for sure. You got to get some defensive pieces, another guy on the outside. You probably got to let go of Zach Ertz. I think his time's coming to an end here in the NFL. Even though he can still somewhat get the job done. But yeah, there's just a lot of retooling with that roster that needs to be done for them to get back into the competitive mode. So, and with the Rams, I don't know, man. They're just going to be one of those so-so teams, especially. I don't know how much longer Aaron Donald's going to play. Stafford's career is coming to an end. Who knows, how long McVay is going to be coaching. I don't know. I think for me, the Rams, just like, I'm not going to compare them to the Lions because to me, I said the Lions overachieved, but I really think the Rams overachieved, even being 5-6 right now. They've overachieved this season.
I agree. Compared to what I thought they'd be coming in, no question about it. Our last of these stinkers was Cleveland at Denver. Unfortunately, Russ couldn't make the flight this time, but he did want me to let you know that Denver is now winners of 5 in a row.
Good for them. I have nothing on this game. I mean, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go. Shannon Sharp on him and saying, "And Russ, I trust." I don't. He's been having
Oh
a great.
Lord, he's doing that now.
Yeah. So look, Russ has
And Russ,
he's had
I
a
trust.
he's had a great bounce back year. I think. I wouldn't say he's back to his old self. I don't think he is, but I think it. Look, to me, it has. I think they got the right coach in Sean Payton there, obviously, but let's talk. Let's talk next year when and see how good this team is because this offseason is very integral for Sean Payton to see what he can bring in, what kind of guys he can bring in that he wants on his roster. So look, they've had a little bit of a bounce back. What is this, 5 in a row now? So look, credit to them. They're not the Chiefs or they're not the Broncos they were last year by any means. They started very rough this year, but they've kind of, that's kind of what happens sometimes with it, bringing in a new coach and a new culture, a new atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. It takes some, adjusting, and I think they're finding their footing. I don't know if I wouldn't call them. I don't think they're a playoff team by any means, but I mean, we'll see if they. I don't know if they can sneak in or not, but uh, look, at 6-5, it's better than being, 3-8. So that's all I can really say.
Let's stay right there in the AFC West where we had Kansas City on the road at Vegas. Vegas scored on their opening drive. First time Chiefs have allowed that to happen in about a year or something crazy like that. KC follows that up with no yards on their first offensive possession, giving the ball back to Vegas where Josh Jacobs breaks off a huge run, opens this game up 14-0. KC said that's cute. Outscored Vegas 31-3 from that point on. Rice had over 100 yards receiving. Kelsey had around 90 yards receiving. I thought the difference in this game was Pacheco, though. Two receiving touchdowns. Whenever he gets his hands on that rock, he runs it hard. He's hard to bring down. He's really a difference maker for this Kansas City team. The defense decided to step up after those two early touchdowns. Raiders have now had 3 second halves in a row where they have not scored a point. So Antonio Pierce, he's bringing a new energy and a new belief to that team, but I know Aiden O'Connell is the quarterback, and it's not Jimmy Garoppolo, but we're going to have to find something to do in the second half where we're going to be able to stay in these games against these better opponents because we are in playoff contention now. And if we expect to get that 7th seed, we're going to have to win a couple games like this. So, how'd you feel about this Kansas City win against the Raiders?
To me, look, I think the Raiders obviously look a lot better with AP running the show over there. It's a rejuvenated team, obviously. Their play, when you watch them play, it shows. But I think, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. There was no getting by this team, even with AP running the show over in Vegas. The Chiefs are too good. To me, they are the top of that AFC still. But look, I don't know. This Chiefs team just feels different than the past few years. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I can't make up my mind. I really can't put my finger on it. Like, I don't trust them in a big game at the end of the season. I really don't. Even though that defense is doing well, this offense to me is just a complete letdown and not where it should be with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. So that worries me.
It's worrisome. Something I'm not going to completely say, I don't not expect them to be in the AFC Championship. Like, I expect them to be there because of Patrick Mahomes and that level of defense that they have, but it is worrisome. I'll just keep it at that.
And I guess to me, it's more worrisome when it comes to if you get to the Super Bowl and say you're playing the Niners or Eagles, those are two teams that are gonna bring it to you.
Or even Baltimore in the postseason if he gets
Well,
there.
right, yeah. If they meet too, it's like
It's like
just
17 points a game in those games.
the AFC
So can your defense
Championship or
hold
the
up?
Super Bowl. The Chiefs worry me because I don't have that same level of confidence I have had, with them the past few years.
Fair. How's your confidence level on this next team here? They were hosting Buffalo yesterday. Their quarterback couldn't have started any worse, that being Jalen Hurts. And Buffalo had their stamp all over this one. They came out like they knew their season was on the line. They were dominating most of this game. They finished with a huge advantage in time of possession, pass yards. They won the turnover battle. They got sacked less than Philly did, but a few missed field goals kept the Eagles around. Too many penalties to put Philly away. I think it was 11-4 in the penalty category. I mean, Hurts, he just did heroic things at the end. Josh Allen led the team down the field for a field goal in overtime. Couldn't get the ball into the end zone off that communication with Gabe Davis. Jalen Hurts just took it upon himself. Had a couple big runs in overtime. Obviously, the one to seal the game. Philly now 10-1 on the season. How you feel about them?
I mean, look, record-wise, you obviously got to put Philly number one over everyone. They're the best team in the league right now. They're proving it week in and week out, but I still think that they look, less dominant than what they were last year. I think last year's team they really went and punched people in the mouth. This team, I'm not as scared of, but the thing about this Philly team this year is they go out there and they find ways to win. Like, they can start slow, but they eventually come back and win. They don't beat themselves, which is what great teams do. The Bills in this one, though, they just the Bills can't get out of their own way, man. Like, it's one of those years for them. Like, they're not it, man. I felt like the Bills were gonna take it to the Eagles this game and give them a run for their money, which they did. But the Bills will bill. They just,
No,
they
Buffalo
let people down. So I don't know, man.
since the 80s.
It is what it is, and credit to Philly for pulling it out in overtime, solidifying themselves as the team to beat right now. So, and that's what it is.
Agreed.
No, there's no hate for me coming towards Philly at all because they're 10-1 and they're a team that looks like it. So.
Our last game, we can make it quick. Baltimore was on the road at the Los Angeles Chargers Sunday Night Football. Zay Flowers had his coming out party, kept us in the game early, sealed it for us late. We did see some offensive struggles for the Ravens with no Andrews in the lineup, and we did have a lot of those wide receivers step up. Like I mentioned, Zay Flowers being one of them. OBJ, Bateman, they helped out a lot. Isaiah Likely, he led the team in targets for a good portion of that first half there. So Lamar was doing a good job of spreading the ball around. The defense, it's beautiful, man. It almost brings a tear to my eye. It's wonderful to watch. It's a reason why I became a fan of this Baltimore franchise. My concerns, Tucker, he is worrying me a little bit. He's now missed 3 or 4 field goals on the season. He's hooking these things a little bit. Maybe that leg is getting a little old, the knee, the ankle, I don't know what it is. Lamar is still a little inefficient with the deep ball. I do still think he leads the league in completion percentage, but he is not crisp in those connections with his receivers down the field. But most importantly, for your sake and mine, this was a game. We had 4 turnovers forced. We had 0 turnovers given. We're supposed to dominate this team. This is supposed to be a Monday conversation of Staley. Is he going to be fired? Instead, it's 20-10. Chargers are still in the playoff hunt, and we have to watch this guy coach a great talent for one more week.
Yeah, that's the only thing I really got in this game is I expected this to be a not so close game and to only win by 10 points. Look, you still won. You're 9-3. Credit to Baltimore. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL, let alone the AFC. So they're a team that scares me come playoff time. There's no doubt about it. And the AFC should be on notice about Baltimore because they're flying under the radar. Not a lot of people talk about Baltimore, which to me that's a good thing for y'all because you're going to come to the playoffs, and I have a feeling Baltimore is going to smack people around. So
We'll see. We have to
we'll
prove
see.
it.
Obviously, hopefully there's no letdowns for you, but there's something about this Baltimore team that I feel like they are a team that should scare a lot of people, and it's a good sign when the offense doesn't have to do a whole lot when the defense is playing the way they are. So that's what's very encouraging.
Agreed. Big win going into the bye. We have LA coming out. That's it for this one. Monday Night Football ahead of us. Minnesota versus Chicago Bears. We'll let you get to it. We appreciate y'all. See you next time.